Hey, welcome in. I'm the professor, the WildUte here, and we're looking today during this episode at the SEC, the most valuable schools in the SEC, and how much the conference is worth as a whole. That's what we're diving into today. Big time question. I've always wondered it. You probably always wondered it too. How much is the Southeastern Conference worth? So in this video, here's what we're going to review. Number one, the worth of each one of the SEC schools. Number two, the combined worth of all the SEC schools, what the conference is worth. Number three, we're going to stack that up and compare it to some world GDP economies and see really where it is and how it stack up in the World Economic Forum. Let's dive into it right here. But first off, the source data for this video comes from CNBC. Here we go, y'all. The CNBC article from December of 2024, what the top 75 college sports programs are worth. Fantastic article. Please reference it. Please go read the article. Took a snippet of it to talk about the methodology and how CNBC was getting to the valuations for each of the schools, top 75 college football athletic programs, and actually getting to a value figure for it. So I'm going to read verbatim on the article, just a few lines here. The revenue figures are from the Department of Education's Equity and Athletics Data Analysis and the Knight Commissions on Intercollegiate Athletics for the fiscal year in 2023. The list is reflective of the current enterprise value of each program, starting with a base revenue multiple of 4 for all institutions, then adjusting the multiple for variables, including conference affiliation, estimated NIL spend, school subsidies, number of alumni, and other factors that can catalyst future revenue growth and profitability. And also CNBC incorporated several people knowledgeable about private equity and valuing athletic programs, departments to get to the values that we're about to go over. But in gist here, what they did, CNBC grabbed the total sales revenue figure for each athletic department, times it by 4, then adjusted that number, that 4 number times by 4, maybe it's a times by 3.7, 3.5, or 4.5, depending on conference affiliation, NIL spend, and the like. So that's the methodology here. So note that's where these values are coming from this CNBC article. Now let's get into it. First off, the SEC on average team in the SEC, there's 16 teams. The average value is $832 million. $832 million for the average value of your baseline SEC athletic department. Comparatively, that is the strongest in all of the Power Four, Big Ten, ACC, and Big 12. And it really dwarfs the Big 12 number of 420. It almost doubles it up, guys. So, and it's superior also to the Big Ten number of 734 and the ACC number of 558 million per school in the conference. And that ACC number does include Notre Dame, which is not a football member, as we all know. So that number is a little juiced up. But the SEC, point of this all, SEC is worth a lot of money, and they're a very valuable conference, as we can see as a whole. Let's now take a look at each individual school. This is interesting. This is super fascinating, and let's look here. There's different tiers. There's the 500 million to 600 million tier, Mississippi State, Vanderbilt, and Missouri. The 600 to 700 million tier, that's South Carolina and Ole Miss, Mississippi. And the 700 to 800 million tier, and that's Auburn, which is surprisingly low, actually. I would have thought Auburn would have been valued at higher than this, but they are sitting there at 772. That's what they're worth, according to the private equity analysis. Kentucky at 775, Arkansas at 776, and Florida at 865. So you're getting to pretty strong programs. The SEC average is 832. You can see that through that line at the very top of this graph. That's the dotted line there showing the average. And Florida beats the SEC average. And all the rest of these schools that we'll name off are superior than the SEC average, which is superior to the rest of the Power Four. So these are big-time brands, strong schools worth a ton of money, guys. So looking at the $900 million tier, there's 4 schools. We're starting to get into the juggernauts here. LSU at $916 million, Oklahoma at $928 million, Tennessee at $940 million. And oh yeah, there's one more in this tier. That's the Georgia Bulldogs at $950 million. Of course, the Alabama Crimson Tide at $978. So you're talking about all the schools there in the 900 million tier. There are 5 different schools that are shown there. And Georgia, Alabama are approaching that $1 billion mark of how much that athletic department is worth, according to private equity. And then you've reached the massive billionaire tier here, and that has the 2 Texas schools. Ironically, the 2 former Big 12 schools, Texas A&M and Texas, almost valued at the same, but Texas Longhorns just edge out the Texas A&M Aggies by just so much. Ouch, rivals. That's rough. So what we're talking about here, Texas A&M is worth $1.26 billion, almost $1.3 billion. In Texas, there's $1.28 billion. The athletic department, holy smokes, valuable, incredibly valuable programs here. So that's the billionaire mark. There's the layout of the SEC. The lowest is Mississippi State and the highest is Texas. That is the valuations per private equity of all the SEC programs. Now let's take a look at all these programs as a whole to see what the whole conference is worth from a private equity perspective. So if we add up all of the different valuations for each institution, $13.3 billion. $13.3 billion the SEC is worth from a private equity standpoint. Cha-ching! That is a lot of cash. Man, over 10 billion, over 11 billion, 12 billion, 13 billion. And man, that's a big time investment if you're private equity getting into the SEC. But really looking at all of the worth of these programs, it is a powerful, powerful group of schools. And that's why the media rights for football especially are worth so much money, y'all. It's just, these are really valuable schools. Now, interestingly, if you stack this number up, this $13.3 billion, which is all of these SEC schools combined, how would that stack compared to some world global economies, the GDPs of different nations? Let's take a look at that. Okay, check this out. The SEC at $13.3 billion is worth more than the GDP of 53 countries on Earth. 53 countries. So the GDP is the gross domestic product. That's all the activity, the trade activity, the interior business activity that goes on in a country in any given year. It just provides the worth, all the revenue generation of that country. And the SEC as a whole is worth more than 53 countries in the world. That is freaking nuts. Yep. So what do we take away from this video? The SEC is worth a lot, worth more than 53 countries, the GDP at least, 53 countries. The Texas schools are worth incredibly tremendous amount, $1 billion each. And the SEC is the most financially valuable conference as far as college conferences in the United States and anywhere in the world. Incredibly valuable. If you've liked this video, please leave a comment. Do you agree? Is the SEC worth $13.3 billion, more or less? I want to hear it. Plus, it helps with the YouTube algorithm, and we can chat. Get this video out to more people. Like the video, and if you're not subscribed already, subscribe to the College Football Mafia channel. We do a lot of analysis, analytic videos, discuss every aspect of college football. The realignment's just around the corner. And until next time, class is dismissed.